everyone. I'm Shelby.
And I'm Therese.
And welcome back to the Screw It, Let's Do This podcast. On our last episode, we did a deep dive on me and my business.
Yes, we did.
And this episode,
Part two.
So we're going to learn all about Therese and her business, how she got to be the tricky foods that you all know and love today.
The nickname. Oh, we should talk about the Miggy's nickname too, because we didn't hit on that.
It's the dog. Everyone knows.
Oh, well, there you go.
It's my dog. Maybe I'll bring her in here if Mr. Producer lets me. She is a good little baby, and she'd sit right here on my lap the whole time.
That'd be cute. I'll get my Chihuahua, Cheddar.
That's something that you guys should all know, that Therese really wants. She doesn't like dogs, but she really wants a Chihuahua.
Named Chico the second.
Who's the first?
My cousin's dog. The reason I like Chihuahuas.
Was he aggressive?
No, he shook all the time though.
Oh, yeah.
Just constantly shook. His eyes were very close to bulging out, but he made me feel so comfortable when I was so little.
It adds up.
Yeah. And that's why I probably like rats, because it was similar. Pet rats, not stray.
Not the stray ones, just the ones that live in your home with you.
They're called specialty rats.
Oh,
You can find them at any pet store.
Thank you.
Hmm?
Well, let's bring it back. I feel like everyone knows who you are now. But 3 years ago, people are like, what's Tricky Foods?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, well, so it started basically 3 years ago. April of 2020 is when I...
Before we get into that, I want to start Therese out the womb in Milwaukee. Where were you born?
When was I born? Okay, thank you. Great first question. So July 16th, 1996. Everyone mark your calendars.
Where were you born? Milwaukee?
Waukesha Memorial Hospital, I think.
Okay.
Let's see. Out the womb.
Were you like cutting cheese by the age of 3?
Absolutely not.
No.
No. Let's see. Where did I start? So I was a middle child. I have an older sister and a younger brother. From what my mother tells me and what I remember, I didn't like to listen to my mom. I wasn't a troublemaker, but she would be like, okay, wear this outfit for church.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be like, nope, I want to choose what I want to wear. And she'd be like, if you can wear what I tell you to wear for 2 days, then you can wear whatever you want. And I'd be like, nope, I just can't. I never wanted to do it. I would go outside in the winter without a coat, and she'd be like, what are you doing? I'd be like, I don't want to wear a coat. So I felt I was always kind of like wanted to do my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was homeschooled, so I was at home a lot with my parents. Well, my mom specifically. So my mother was a stay-at-home mom, and she homeschooled my older sister, me, and my younger brother. So because I was home all the time, I could get like all my schoolwork done in the day, like for the week in a day. So then I would spend that time being outside, watching TV, the Food Network. I always watched the Food Network, and I would just sit in my pajamas and take notes.
So do you think that's kind of when like your food
yeah. Well,
passion started?
There's a couple of things. So one, my family gatherings were always around food.
Mm-hmm.
My mom's side, my dad's side too. They both come from really big families. So having food out events was like a way to bring people together. Like I associated food with like hanging out, having fun. My mom really loved to bake.
Mm-hmm.
So I have no interest in baking. And I don't even like sweets. My mom's side like really loves sweets.
Mm-hmm.
No one else in my family is obsessed with cooking like I am. My older sister, my younger brother, my dad, like no one is. But my mom does like to bake. And she cooks too, but baking is her favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd watch the Food Network all the time. And I would just sit and take notes. And I'd be like, Mom, can we try making these like deep fried cheese curds? And I would be super young. I don't even know how
Was
old.
she all for it?
It's not like I came asking to like make octopus or anything.
Yeah.
I'd be like
A grilled cheese.
Yeah. So, and also being homeschooled, I always fantasized about these public school experiences that I didn't have, like taking the bus
Mm-hmm.
or going in the lunchroom. So I would recreate those at home. So I once made this giant bus out of paper and then like put string on it, and the whole family would like put it on, and we'd like go around the house. Like you could wear it like almost like a backpack type of thing. It's still in my memory box. And I just would fantasize about that. Or we do the Pledge of Allegiance with just us in our house.
Do they still do that?
I don't know.
Because that's like a core memory that you just unlocked.
Really?
Was having to do that. We did it like every day.
Yeah. So we did it too.
Yeah.
And sometimes my mom would make us like get pots and pans. We'd like da 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 da. Yeah, that was funny. And then also because the lunchroom experience, like I didn't have that, so I would try to recreate it. So sometimes I'd be like, Mom, what's for lunch? And she'd be like, well, what are you making? So I would set up on our on our island, I would set up like my favorite food, pasta, pasta, cheese, a salad. And I'd set it up like lunchroom
Yeah,
style.
like a line.
So I'd be like, here's your schlop. And then
I wish I could see like 5-year-old Therese, 10-year-old.
Wait until
doing
I
that.
tell you the next story, which I didn't even think about until I mentioned that. So I would set it up and I would, from what I remember, I would make food for my family a lot when I could. So I loved doing that. Of course, I always hated doing the dishes, but I loved doing that. And then this is one of the best parts of my childhood that my family always talks about. And I think I talked about when you were at my house, the Susie's Diner.
Mhm.
I'm doing air quotes. So I pretended I owned a restaurant at my parents' house. So my grandma gave me like an apron for a Christmas gift, and I had a little like restaurant booklet, and I'd go and take their order. Like I'd make fake menus, like print them on Microsoft Word. And the menu item would be like sandwich, salad. It was just like pizza, a smoothie, like super simple things. And then I would staple it together and I would be like, hi, welcome to, I would pretend to be a waitress. And then I
Were
would
you
go,
Susie?
my mom is Susie.
Oh.
Sue. So I was
Yeah.
it was her kitchen. So then I would take the order form and then I would tape it up above the oven. I'd be like, order up. And so my dream was, I always dreamed about just like being in a restaurant. And then I make it, I'd be like, and then I would like, write them a check, and it was always free. I gave massive discounts, which then expanded to my next business, which was the St. Teresa's Hotel. And that was my family's house. So like I set up a corner, and like this was so meaningful for me. I was sat in the corner. I made a map of the house. I made room keys. I would make people's rooms. I would set it up with like towels and little shampoos. I would take them from all the hotels we were at. And I would pretend that it was a hotel and no one would ever check in. I'd be like, listen, you guys, I will clean your room. I will set it up with like towels and all this stuff. Like you get a free meal. I even ran promos where it was
That
like,
is so funny.
because I had all these booklets where it's like all these promotional nights, like we're having a movie night tonight, movie, Ratatouille, which checks out, and cooking, or like summer savings, get a free room. And so I made all these like guest forms. And then I would set it up where I'd put it through my printer and then would print the word approved on it. I would give people their bills. And if they, like my mom needed to take her vitamins every day. So I would be like, fill out this pill order and then we'd be hiring a nurse and I need to hire a nurse.
Oh my gosh.
So it was a whole thing. But like, then something happened where it's like the magic went away. I don't know. You know when you play house when you're a kid and then one day the magic just like.
How sad.
Yeah. So I was like,
It's so,
I was like, this is not sustainable for me.
I'm working too many hours. No one's helping.
Yeah, seriously.
That's so funny though, like how young you were. And that was like what gave you life back then. So once you kind of grew out of that, the play phase, what came next?
Oh,
for like your next
you're good.
entrepreneurial journey?
Well, there's a couple things for the entrepreneurial journey, but the next thing that came for me was my goth stage. And that is when I was like, you know what? Screw it. St. Teresa's didn't work. I'm going goth. I'm going goth, baby. So this is when I got my first laptop. I would always play like online games. That was my life. Like RuneScape, Webkins, Club Penguin. I think I might have mentioned those briefly. I felt like I had my whole life on there. Like I would call my cousin who was also homeschooled and I'd be like, yo, Josh, you in? And he'd be like, World 57. And I'd be like, AC Boy 123, let's go. Find me God Rocks 49. I was addicted. And so I would just go in these games and I would just cook all day in these games. I would just fish and cook lobsters all day, cook shrimp, literally. And in Webkins, I would figure out how to like make food
you
things.
You have a ton of like restaurant experience before you even started.
I do have a ton of, thank you so much for saying that.
Yeah.
I should have thought about that
more. It should be on your resume.
It should be, but unfortunately it's not. Or I'd play those computer games where it's like, I'm running a sushi restaurant and like, oh no, that person's waiting too long. And you give them like free sake.
Yeah.
But
I played these games like a little. I remember they were fun, but I think it like really hit home for you a lot harder.
It did. Well, I was also homeschooled and didn't have a lot of friends. We hit that on the Lonely episode or the How to Make Friends episode. Yeah. So I had a lot of time to myself. But so that's what I did when I was younger. And then I went to public school and high school and I started to get involved in business club. We talked about how I did it like every sport. I did every sport, you guys, and I sucked at all of them, but I tried them all. Then business club was where I felt like I really shined. But
do you think that's when you like realized like, oh, I want to be in business? Was like that age?
Probably, but I feel like my journey with work and entrepreneurship started at a younger age. So for example, my parents, I would be like, hey mom, like I need candy to go to Walgreens, like bad. And she'd be like, okay, well you can clean the bathroom, you can do this. And I knew every task in the house had like a price my parents would pay me. So I'd be like, okay mom, I really want to buy this CD player. I need to get like $18 so I can clean all 3 bathrooms. I can clean this, fold 18 like loads of laundry or whatever. I got paid 25 cents per load of laundry. So then I'd work all day and my mom would sometimes throw me a tip.
It's so funny because like I would clean or do whatever too if I wanted something, but I would negotiate. Like I need this amount and you want me to do this? Well, I'll do that for that amount and I'll do it really well.
Oh my gosh. No, I just like, we set our amounts, but see, I think that's why I like cleaning the bathrooms because that was my favorite task because I always got paid $1.50. Yeah. And that was like big money. I'm like, I'm conning you guys.
Yeah.
So started with that. And then another thing we used to do was we used to collect cans. So we'd go, this is really quite.
My whole family does it.
Collecting cans for aluminum.
Iowa. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's hoe down, throw down. My brother and sister got caught by the police once going through people's recycling bins. We didn't collect our own cans. We went through the neighborhood's recycling bins on Monday morning and a police pulled them over and they're like, hey kids, why are you not in school? My sister was like shaking because they looked homeless in the neighborhood. Like someone called them in.
Yeah.
And so, we would collect cans and sell that for money or like lemonade stands, of course. We'd actually take a wagon and like go to people's doors and try to sell.
A wig?
A wagon.
Oh, I thought you said a wig.
A wagon, everyone, wagon.
I thought you were like dressing up. Okay.
No, well, we also dressed up and we probably had wigs, and then another time we sold rocks to people in the neighborhood. And they
Classic.
they were painted with like washable paint. So I remember my neighbor bought a $20 rock.
Oh my God.
And then it rained that night and I was like, no refunds. So I feel like that was the start of entrepreneurship, maybe. Like in a very small way. I'm sure a lot of kids have that experience and that doesn't mean they become an entrepreneur, but the thought of like, you need to work for your money, like where you're not going to get it is something I feel like started then. When I got my first job was when I was 15. I didn't need a job. My parents weren't like, you need to go get a job because I was babysitting. And it's not like I had expenses really at that point. I had a friend who worked at a sub shop. I won't name the name because bad experience. I was super excited though. I really wanted to work there. I wanted to be a sub artist because food was my passion. I'm like, this is day one of the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Terrible place. Not because of the job. I loved making subs. It was so fun. But management was insane. I wrote a letter to their corporate 7 years later when I was like 20 because I realized all the illegal things that they made us do.
Yeah.
And like all of our parents knew that. Like my dad is the one that's like, they can't be telling you to work if you're not clocked in or they can't fake fire you as a joke. Like that's terrible.
That's hilarious. I do it all the time.
Yeah. It was awful. And so like a bunch of our parents, they tried to call corporate and corporate just never called them back. So that was kind of icky.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm not going to do the food industry. This is not for me. And my sister worked at a restaurant too and they weren't paying her. So it's like the food industry was like rubbing me the wrong way. So worked at Walgreens, loved being a sales clerk. I loved just checking people out. It was really fun for me. And then I got my first business job, which was a sales internship when I was 17 at a software company. So I was like, oh, I'm at a software company. Cool. And that's when I decided, I'm like, I think I'm going to go into IT maybe. Like I kind of had the thought. And so I went to my freshman year at Whitewater, went in with general business. And then after year one, I switched over to IT. My dad had told me, he's like, IT's where the money's at. Like, you should do that. So I'm like, okay, a woman in IT, like that's a great idea. I bet I can do it. I've worked at software companies. So I did that, but I was really involved with like the marketing and sales club at Whitewater. So I would do sales competitions, do like a 1-minute pitch about myself, and I would win money. So I was like really motivated to do that. In high school, I joined a business club and I was able to like compete. It's called DECA.
Yep.
Loved it. That is what pushed me into business. I just was like, wait, I got to go to Atlanta to compete about this? Like what?
Yeah.
So I would like say my friend who got me to join DECA, her name is Grace. And she was definitely like someone that pushed me in that direction. And that was like a game changer for me. And then I got involved with the American Marketing Association at Whitewater. And those were big like points for me.
Yep.
So yeah, I feel like I'm kind of talking a lot, but like that's where we're at now with up to college.
Yeah.
So I got really involved.
So now you're in college, you're involved with all these different business groups and you're in IT. What do you think you're going to be doing after college? Is food still a passion? Like, is that still something that you're doing in college, or are you just like partying and not?
Yeah. Well, let's see. So food in college, I would say like freshman year, I got the
Doritos.
I love Doritos.
I know.
I used to put them in a bowl and lap it like a dog.
Yeah, I know. I've seen it.
No, you haven't. I haven't bought Doritos in years. Freshman year, I got the 24, like the biggest meal plan you could get. That was like the extent of my food, like freshman year.
Yeah.
And then I started cooking again sophomore year. Made my food Instagram Tricky Foods my senior year when I was going through a breakup and I had some time. And that's actually when I tried to start my first business.
What was that?
Closet on Wheels. That's what the name was.
Okay.
Yeah, it was going to be a coat check on wheels type thing where it was going to be a really cool hip like trailer in the middle of Whitewater. So like people, this is before Uber.
You should talk to Elena about that idea.
I don't think with Uber nowadays, I don't think it would even need to be a thing. This is before Uber was at Whitewater. Yeah. And there's just like one taxi that took forever. And people didn't want to get their coats stolen and stuff like that. So I bought a trailer and I got a license to do business.
That is just insane.
I know, it is really funny, but I had time because I was going through a breakup. So that's what I realized when I have time and nothing to do, I love to create and like come up with ideas. So bought the trailer, and then when school started, I'm like, it's my senior year. Nah. So I sold the trailer for a little bit more than I bought it for. So it wasn't
nice flip.
I probably broke even at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's when I tried to start my own thing. And then when I graduated, I wanted to be a project manager, and that's what I was. So I basically
dream big, baby.
An IT project manager. My favorite teacher that taught IT classes is a woman, and I just really looked up to her. So I'm like, if she could do it and like be a manager of a bunch of people doing IT work, like that's what I wanted to do. So basically exactly what I went to school for, I ended up doing that. My first job out of college. The place I worked after college was so unusual though. It was so like,
to say the least.
Like if I got a project management job at a regular place, I guarantee I would still be there or still be in corporate. But this place was so saturated of
cutthroat.
If you're Madison,
you know what it is.
You already know what it is. But for those who aren't, it's just a big tech company, thousands of people, a very googly campus. I worked in a castle, and we call it Work Church, like an underground stadium that held 11,000 people, and we'd meet there once a month. I flew to Texas every other week, and it was just super intense. So it was not long into that where so many of my friends had quit. I knew I was...
Did you have time for food or like anything that you enjoyed during that?
That's a great question. And no,
thank you.
I ate 3 meals a day at work because my work had
the food is good.
Incredible. This place has chefs and a whole like 10 cafeteria areas, a sushi restaurant. The food is, you buy it at cost from them. So like for me to buy a boiled egg and a piece of bacon and a latte was like $3. So it didn't even make sense. By the time you go home,
they know how to keep you there.
They know how to keep you there. So I had breakfast, lunch, and then if you stay late, you get free dinner. So I ate 3 meals a day at work, which is pretty sad to like think about. I constantly had to decide between like 1 hour, extra hour of sleep, or 1 hour to work out, or an hour to hang out with my friends. I didn't understand. I was like, is this what like everyone else is going through? Or is it just this place? Because I had coworkers who rage quit within a day and just cleared all their stuff out. We had to give a month notice. Yeah, that place like took me to my lowest point probably in life.
Yeah. So you're, after that, which I think most people know what we're talking about, after that whole experience, what did you do next? Like, so you end up leaving because it took the life out of you basically.
Yeah.
What do you do now?
Well, I had thought, I had gone back and forth about leaving for a really, really long time. The money was really good there. And anyone I talked to that had been there for a long time, I was trying to search for a reason to stay. And everyone just said, like, I'm here because it's the money. Everyone, you know, they're 8-10 years deep and it felt like everyone was just there for the money. I'm like, oh, crap. I really don't see myself. I can't do this.
Mhm.
So decided to put in my notice. And a couple weeks after I put in my notice, people were joking about a Corona and Lyme, you know, like
Mhm.
virus. I'm like, oh, you know, people were joking.
Mhm.
And then my last 2 weeks at my corporate job were virtual. And it was that moment where I'm like, what is happening?
It's so weird
We're-
to think about
yeah.
that time.
I didn't get to say goodbye in person to any, which maybe it would have been, maybe that was better. I don't know. It would have been probably hard to like, I would have cried when I said bye to
Mhm.
everyone. Because this is also a little insane, but I used to have a Post-it note in my office, and every time someone would quit, I'd put a check, like every single time.
That's so
Because I just
horrible.
felt like, I was like, ha, I beat them. I was here longer than them, which is such a sick like thing.
Yeah.
Such a nasty way to like look at it. But like everyone there was type A and very like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm achieving more. It's what I felt like.
Yeah.
But anyway, so had that moment where it's like, I'm going to die. Done nothing that I love. What am I going to do next?
Mm-hmm.
So my plans to travel, because I had so many points, my plans to travel were all shot. My plans to have with my friends, everything that I planned to do was gone. And that's when I was on Instagram all the time. And one of my good friends from college, Summer, sent me a link to a food blogger who started a food business from her corporate job. And I just really resonated with her story. So I took one of her courses on how to monetize Instagram. And while I was taking that, I decided to start a charcuterie and cheese business. And I used what I learned from that class to like help market it. And so like piece of it was selling charcuterie and cheese boards, and the other piece was selling myself. Like that's how I felt like I stood out, was with my personality and my story. A lot of people have cheese board businesses now. 3 years ago, there wasn't anyone in this area. Now there's totally other people in this area that have come and gone, and some that are still emerging. But it was funny because when I like mentioned it to my brother-in-law, I'm like, hey, do you think this is a good idea? He's like, nah, I won't do that. I'm like, well, I'm just going to try, because why not? It seems so easy is what I thought.
Yeah.
So I never made a cheese board before, but I made like the largest platter that I could. And then I broke it down and made a smaller one, broke it down again. And like I just kept using the same ingredients, but breaking it down. I'm like, this is so ugly. Like, why can't I make it look cute?
Mm-hmm.
But still, I posted online, and my first, 20 customers were all people that I knew and friends of friends. And then it started to trickle in with like people I'd never met before. And
Yeah.
that's when I was like, oh,
Uh-oh.
I have to figure out like what I'm doing here.
So now you start Tricky Foods, you're starting to get these customers that you've never met, and you're like, crap, how do I charge people? How do I make this board look nice? Like you're going through all these new things. How do you get from never having made a cheese board to now? What went in there? What'd you sprinkle in?
Man, I would say a lot of alone time, to just think about it. And like half of the decisions I made early on in my business, I made at 4 a.m. I was struggling, like getting back from burnout. And so I'd spend all day just being horizontal on the couch. And then at night, I'd be like, crap, I did nothing. I'm going to file for a business LLC. I'm going to order stuff from Vistaprint, my first business cards. I just tried really hard to not overthink it, because I had a cool example. My brother started his business when he was 17.
Yeah.
That's another thing, actually. All my siblings have their own businesses, but
Yeah.
my brother started his when he was 17. So I know how janky a business can start out.
Yeah.
And like, you just have to keep building it. So it can start out with like a rusty car and a magnet on the side before you get a ton of vehicles that are all wrapped in your logo. Like that's how my brother's business is. But so I would say like try not to overthink it was how I started. And then really my biggest mindset was like, I need to make a splash for any customer that's mine. Like I need to treat them so well so that they buy again and they tell their friends.
Yep.
And so that's what I did. I would bend over backwards for anyone. They couldn't get my service anywhere else. There was no service that could do what I felt like I could offer. If they named it, I would do it.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've kind of like slimmed down, and I'm like, you should go somewhere else for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would recommend that. But I would say like using Instagram to grow, and then I just keep saying yes until I break. Basically, like I will take on so much work, and then I'll be like,
I hit it.
That
I hit my
was-
point.
never again, or
Yeah.
never again that same way. So I like working, like hiring people has been a huge game changer. I don't have any family.
How long did you go before you hired someone?
Left corporate April 2020, opened up my business bank account and like left at the bank because I'm like, oh, Tricky Foods. In May, sold my first board in June, had my first helper. Actually, a few months later, I had a friend reach out who was one of my old coworkers. And he's like, hey, I'm really interested in the food industry. Can I help you? So he would help me at the kitchen. And that's when I learned like, I don't know how to get help on this. I don't understand how to like tell someone to make a board because I haven't standardized it. So that was like a learning experience. He would help me do silly things like cut string or like hole punch cards or like menu cards. He helped me for a little bit. And that was like an eye-opening experience because like with his help, I was able to take on, you know, instead of 3 orders in a day, 10. And we thought that was crazy. We would run around and we would just like think it was wild that we were getting 10 orders in. I'd look him in the eyes and like almost cry. I'm like, we have 10 orders. And then my first actual employee was Jack, still is my employee. And he was one of my great friends from college's cousin. So he reached out. He's like, hey, can I help? I'm like, I don't really know you at all, but like, sure. So I just had him come and like do simple things again. And I was like, if you want to help me at the kitchen, that would be awesome. So he came and he helped me and I was able to take on like 20 extra orders because he was there.
So you're talking about kitchen. Which kitchen are you referring to? Were you doing this out of your home?
Yeah.
What's the 411?
Oh, man. I think as most people do, you start not knowing what you're doing. And so it might not be the right way. I started in my house because I thought I was cottage law maybe. I talked to a free resource at the University of Wisconsin. And I talked to like a group of lawyers that offered free advice. And they're like, you need to be in a commercial kitchen like yesterday.
Yeah.
So I got off that call and cried. And I said, this isn't going to work. How am I going to find one? Toured some, wasn't going to work for me. And I don't know why, but this person that I didn't even really know just said like, hey, I know of this kitchen that just opened up. I was the first renter there. It was really just like literally as simple as possible. Now there's a lot more people there, but because I was the first one in, I was able to negotiate a price that made me profitable.
Yeah.
I would not be able to have started my business if I didn't find that kitchen.
Yeah.
And some people are like, yeah, what about like going in a church kitchen? It's like, I called churches, like they wouldn't let me. I offered to give 1% of my profits back to them. They wouldn't let me. So
kitchens are tough.
Really.
Food. Yeah.
Well, and when you're talking about refrigeration too, that is something that people are like, yeah, we don't have that. It's tough. And especially when you're like weekends and holidays, that's a big day for a lot of places. And that's when my demand is as well. So anyways, I got my first employee. He was just volunteering the first couple of weeks. And I was like, when you turn 16, I'm going to hire you and like start paying you. So that was a game changer because the difference between having 1 and 2 people is being able to take on double the workload in half the time or the same workload.
Yeah.
Because after, 6 hours on your feet, like you go down. Your speed is not quite the same. Yeah. Got the first employee and then realized like during busy season, like holiday season, needed another one. So hired another one. And that's like from there, when you start pulling in more people, you have to standardize your practice.
Yeah.
So like now at, 3 years later, I actually don't make many of the boards now. Hallelujah. Like as of right now. So yeah, that's kind of like the goal of the business is to like be able to create a process that's repeatable by other people so that we can take on more work. So yeah, I mean, now the business does a lot of different things. We have charcuterie boards, we have grazing tables, we have classes. A lot of this stuff I still do because I'm figuring out how to like train staff to be able to do that too. But that has been a huge help. So yeah, that's...
So you've got all these employees now.
Well, 3.
But they're helping you a ton. We both realize how much of a game changer employees have been, which is huge. I guess what's your proudest moment in everything that you've done to this point?
I think this answer would probably change every couple of months because I'm always proud of something new that we're doing. I'm proud when we hit our new limits on things. But I would say one that I keep thinking about that keeps me going this year. And I look back at last year. Like obviously I'm a business that's for profit. So like I like to look at the numbers. Yeah. But like being able to pay myself a livable salary for the past 2 years and also buying a car for the business, through the business, like in full. Every time I drive everywhere, I'm like, I know. I went from a 2007 Ford Focus to my 2019 Honda CR-V with heated seats. Like, it's incredible. And I just think about like, I quit my job at corporate when I had just paid off my debt. I had $10,000 saved. And then I started waitressing at a country club to just like pay my bills while I was starting this business.
Mm-hmm.
So like to be able to only do this business and be able to pay myself while growing the business and like paying other people, and hopefully like the team grows where there's another full-time person in the future. That means a lot to me to know that like I'm actually running a business. This is not a hobby. This is not something, I don't look at it as something little and a little side gig or anything.
Yeah.
It's like the whole thing for me.
Advice for your younger self. You asked me, and now I'm going to ask you.
That's tough because every point in my life, I feel like I was in a very different place. I would say like younger self, meaning beginning of when I started my business, would be probably like trust the process. Like, you know, I have this goal, I'm going after it, but like what matters is like what I do every day.
Yeah.
And it like moves it forward just a tiny bit more. And I feel like if you just focus on doing good every day, eventually you'll get to where you want to go. I think I always kind of knew that, but I would just like remind myself. So yeah, that's that. Ask me a different time, I'll tell you something different.
Anyone in charcuterie or wanting to start a food, I guess charcuterie is pretty like specialized. Any advice for them? Anyone looking to start a food business, advice for them?
This is just going to come from my heart then. I would say for me, I look at my business as not so much of like a food business. It's like a business. And I don't feel like I look at it like a restaurant or a food truck. Like I feel like I have big plans for it. So I'm taking a very like business mindset about it, like how to improve processes and all that stuff. But I would say one, having like the group of friends, the small business friends, like that is honestly what's kept me going. But also like being able to make your craft repeatable and trainable to another team. Because for me, I could not do the amount of work that we do if I actually did all of the making of the charcuterie boards and all of the inventory all the time and like all the monotonous little tasks that like have to be done.
Yep.
There's absolutely no way we could actually do enough revenue where it would be worth it for me or anyone else. So like I would never want to be a solopreneur. I would definitely recommend being able to make something repeatable or a piece of your process repeatable.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, and you look at your stuff and it's like so beautiful, but you've created a process where like you don't even have to be there half the time where people are making stuff.
Half the time.
Half right now.
There's still a lot of work to be done there. But I'll leave it at that. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, that was really fun.
Yeah, that goes by really fast. I am like thinking about all the holes I left in the story.
I know.
Maybe we'll circle
back.
Yeah, we'll
do a
fill
back for both of us.
Like around 2, here's the things we didn't hit.
Yeah. And maybe we can get questions from other people.
Yeah, that would be good.
Too.
Gosh, life stories, they're just like very complex. So it's like, it's impossible. I hope you guys feel like you know us a little bit more now, but like, do you really?
Yeah. It's hard. You can't fit everything into a 45-minute, 30-minute, whatever it ends up being episode. So
yeah.
But it was good though.
Yeah,
I feel like I know you more.
Really?
No.
You knew
I already
all
know
that.
all this.
Oh, see.
But I'm excited. We're going to have a couple guests on soon.
Yes, we are. And honestly, that's going to be such a breath of fresh air. Then you guys don't have to hear us talk all the time.
Truly.
Which I know you love hearing us talk, but we're going to have some very, very great voices on here.
Yeah.
Starting,
I cannot wait.
Next time. I think the next time you guys hear us.
Yeah, after this.
But yeah, thank you everyone for tuning into this week's episode. I hope you tune in again. And every week, every Wednesday, we drop new episodes. So, Shelby, where can they find us?
You can find us on Instagram at Screw It, Let's Do This. You can also find my personal Instagram at Mickey's Bakes.
And you can find mine at Tricky Foods.
You can also watch us on YouTube.
Oh, that's the best place to watch.
And you can listen to us anywhere you get your podcasts. So
that's true. Don't forget to give us a rating if you love it.
And subscribe.
Yes.
That would mean a lot.
It would. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Bye.
Bye.